What if I told you that a single ingredient hiding in so many foods you eat every day is getting blamed online for fueling inflammation, obesity, and chronic diseases worldwide? Yep, we're talking about seed oils. Some folks call them toxic, even a modern dietary plague. But are they really a health hazard, or just massively misunderstood? Today, we're getting into it. We'll look past the hype, the accusations, and check out what the science actually says. Are these oils just taking the fall for unhealthy habits, or is there a real toxic deception on your plate? Stick around. The answers could genuinely surprise you. So, what are these seed oils causing all this fuss? Basically, they're oils from plant seeds. You've seen the names: canola, corn, cottonseed, soybean, sunflower, safflower, grapeseed, and rice bran oil. Some people online even call them the Hateful Eight. And they are everywhere. In salad dressings, mayo, baked stuff, your favorite snacks, and the oil many restaurants use for frying. They've become super common in our diets over the last 100 years or so, mainly because they're cheap, don't taste like much, and are easy for food companies to use. But now, the fact they're in so many things is sparking a huge debate. What are the main complaints? Well, first, the idea that their high omega-6 fatty acid content, especially linoleic acid, causes chronic inflammation, which some say is the root of many modern illnesses. Second, critics target how these oils are processed, using chemical solvents like hexane, bleaching, and deodorizing, claiming this makes the oils toxic or kills off nutrients. And third, you often find them in ultra-processed foods, so people connect them with bad health, or at least in their minds. Online, it often sounds like they're an immediate threat. You see claims that eating seed oils goes hand in hand with rising rates of obesity, heart disease, cancer, and diabetes, suggesting one directly causes the other. The message is often, don't ever eat these. But is the science really that clear-cut? Let's find out. Alright, let's get into the biggest claim, that omega-6 fatty acids in seed oils are a main cause of chronic inflammation. The argument usually sounds like this: seed oils are packed with linoleic acid and omega-6. Now, omega-6 is essential. Our bodies can't make it, so we need it from food. But the theory goes that too much of it, especially compared to omega-3s, leads to more arachidonic acid, which can kickstart inflammation. Sounds believable, right? It's a key part of the anti-seed oil argument. But when you look at a wider range of scientific studies, things get a lot more complicated, and often the opposite seems true. Lots of studies and reviews have looked into this, and most find that linoleic acid from our food doesn't consistently raise inflammation markers. Actually, some research suggests it might even do the opposite. A 2017 study from the University of Eastern Finland found that having more linoleic acid in the blood was linked to lower levels of C-reactive protein, CRP, a major sign of inflammation. And more recent stuff, like a November 2024 report in the British Journal of Nutrition, points out that getting more omega-6, specifically linoleic acid, is actually linked to less inflammation and doesn't increase oxidative stress. The American Heart Association also notes that omega-6 fatty acids can actually fight inflammation. Sure, our ancestors probably ate a more balanced mix of omega-6s and omega-3s, and a really extreme imbalance could be an issue. But the idea that linoleic acid itself, in the amounts most people eat, is automatically inflammatory, that's not really backed up by the current evidence. It looks like our bodies are pretty good at controlling the conversation of linoleic acid to arachidonic acid, and how much we eat doesn't really change the levels in our blood or tissues much. So, saying seed oils directly cause massive inflammation because of their omega-6 content, that seems like a huge oversimplification, or maybe even twisting of what the science shows. The next big worry about seed oils is how they are made. And it's true, many common seed oils go through a lot of refining. That can mean using solvents like hexane to get the oil out, plus things like degumming, bleaching, and deodorizing to make them tasteless, stable, and last longer on the shelf. Critics say these steps strip out good nutrients, and even worse, can leave behind harmful chemical bits or create nasty stuff like trans fats. Just the word hexane sounds pretty alarming, doesn't it? But food safety groups like the European Food Safety Authority, the EFSA, say the tiny traces of hexane that might be left in oils after processing aren't a health risk. Modern ways of refining are set up to keep these residues super low, and also to keep trans fats from forming. Actually, refined seed oils today usually have very little trans fat, often much less than what you'd naturally find in animal fats like butter or milk. And while some nutrients might get lowered during refining, oils like soybean oil can still give you vitamin E. So, what about heating seed oils? This is a fair question, but it's all about context. If oils are heated over and over to really high temperatures for a long time, like in some restaurant deep fryers that don't get their oil changed enough, then yes, bad compounds, including trans fats and other oxidized gunk, can show up. That's why good kitchen practices are so important in restaurants and food production. But for regular cooking at home, like sauteing, baking, or the occasional fry up, the risk is thought to be pretty small. Using seed oils the right way in your own kitchen doesn't really carry big health risks from the processing or heating, based on what scientists currently understand. The idea that all processed seed oils are just automatically toxic just because of how they're refined, that's not backed up by major food safety or health groups. Now, let's talk about something really important that often gets mixed up in the seed oil debate: how they're linked to ultra-processed foods. There's no denying seed oils are in a lot of foods that, let's be honest, aren't doing any of us any favors. Think packaged cookies, chips, sugary cereals, fast food, and microwave meals. These ultra-processed foods are usually loaded with calories, added sugar, salt, and unhealthy fats, which can include saturated fats and seed oils. But they're low in fiber and important vitamins and minerals. Loads of research shows that eating a lot of these foods is linked to higher risks of obesity, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and other chronic problems. So when people decide to ditch seed oils, they often end up cutting back on these ultra-processed foods. And you know what? They often feel better. But was it the seed oil itself that was the bad guy, or just the generally poor quality of the food it was in? Many experts think it's the food overall. The problems tied to these foods are more likely because they're a mix of too much sugar, salt, unhealthy fats, and not enough nutrients, rather than just the seed oil part on its own. This is where the whole toxic seed oil story can pull our attention away from the real dietary problems. If we just blame seed oils but ignore the bigger picture of eating tons of processed stuff, we're kind of missing the point. While the internet often makes seed oils out to be terrible for your heart, a lot of science, including advice from major health groups, tells a different story, especially when they're used instead of saturated fats. For decades, studies have shown that swapping out saturated fats, think butter, lard, and fatty meats, for unsaturated fats, like the polyunsaturated kind in seed oils, usually lowers LDL cholesterol, the bad kind. And high LDL cholesterol is a known risk factor for heart disease. Big, long-running studies and reviews have often found that eating more polyunsaturated fats, including linoleic acid from seed oils, is linked to a lower risk of heart problems and dying from heart disease. For instance, a recent peer-reviewed paper in Nutrition Today from March 2025 and another in the British Journal of Nutrition in late 2024 both support the idea that linoleic acid is linked to a lower risk of heart disease, and that replacing saturated fats with polyunsaturated fat oils brings down blood cholesterol and heart disease risk. Some research even shows that having more linoleic acid in your system is tied to a much lower risk of dying from heart disease or having a stroke. Now, this doesn't mean you should pour seed oil on everything and expect miracles for your heart. Your overall way of eating is what really counts. But the evidence strongly points to this. When used to replace saturated fats, many seed oils can actually be part of a heart-healthy approach, which is the opposite of those widespread toxic claims. We're covering a lot of ground here, and the science can get pretty complicated. What are you thinking so far? Have you heard all these claims about seed oils? Drop a comment below. We'd love to hear what you think. And if you're finding this breakdown useful, please give us a thumbs up and maybe subscribe for more explorations into food and health science. Your support really helps us make more videos like this. Okay, back to the science. It's really important to get that seed oils aren't all the same thing. They're not one giant blob. Different oils have different types of fats, different smoke points, and could be processed in different ways. For example, high oleic sunflower oil is different from regular sunflower oil and holds up better in high heat. Flaxseed oil is loaded with omega-3s, which most other common seed oils aren't. The main message from most big health and nutrition groups, like the World Health Organization and the American Heart Association, isn't to be scared of seed oils. Instead, they say to focus on your overall eating habits. They usually suggest swapping saturated and trans fats for unsaturated fats, which includes many seed oils, as part of a balanced diet full of whole foods, fruits, veggies, whole grains, and lean protein. Often, the real problem isn't the oil itself, but how it's eaten. If most of the seed oil you get is from deep-fried fast food and ultra-processed snacks, then yeah, your diet probably isn't healthy. But the oil is just one piece of a bigger puzzle. If you're using a bit of canola oil to stir-fry some vegetables, that's a totally different story. This whole controversy, which gets a lot of fuel from social media and personal stories, often misses the careful details that you find in scientific discussions. Science hardly ever slaps a simple good or evil label on single foods or ingredients. It's almost always about the context. Recent scientific reviews keep finding that the claims about seed oils being automatically toxic or uniquely bad just aren't backed up by most of the evidence. So, after digging through all the claims, the science, the arguments back and forth, what can you actually do with all this information? What are the practical science-backed tips? First off, seed oils aren't automatically toxic or dangerous when you eat them as part of a balanced diet based on whole foods. The science just doesn't back up all the widespread fear. Second, what your overall diet looks like matters way more than obsessing over one single ingredient. Focus on whole, unprocessed foods. If you cut down on ultra-processed stuff, you'll naturally eat fewer industrially added seed oils, plus less sugar, extra salt, and other things you probably don't want too much of. That's likely where the biggest health wins are. Third, when you're cooking, pick oils that can handle the heat. For high heat cooking, oils with higher smoke points are better. Some seed oils are fine for this, but things like avocado oil or light olive oils are great choices too. For salad dressings and cooking at lower temperatures, you've got a whole wider range to choose from, including many seed oils or extra virgin olive oil. Fourth, you don't need to banish seed oils from your kitchen out of fear, but by the same token, don't make them your only source of fat. Variety is generally a good idea in nutrition. Getting healthy fats from different places like olive oil, avocados, nuts, seeds, and fatty fish, along with using seed oils moderately if you want to, is a smart way to go. And fifth, be careful about where you get your nutrition advice from. Crazy claims on social media often don't have any science behind them and can just make people scared and confused. For reliable info, look to respected health organizations and studies that have been checked by other scientists. You only need to look down in the description to see all the science where our video information came from. So, back to our big question. Is there a toxic seed oil deception in your food? Well, based on what current science tells us, the popular story that paints common seed oils as these evil, toxic ingredients, that seems to be mostly a deception itself. Or at least, a pretty big overstatement and misunderstanding of the science. The real deception, if that's how you want to call it, might be how complex nutrition science gets boiled down into scary, bite-sized warnings. Yes, there are fair questions about really high omega-6 to omega-3 ratios, what industrial food processing does, and the effects of heating oils to super high temperatures over and over. But just calling all seed oils toxic across the board, that's not what the evidence shows. The health problems often blamed on seed oils are much more closely tied to the ultra-processed foods they're often hiding in, and to general eating habits that are high in calories, sugar, and salt. It's not so much about the oils themselves when they're eating in moderation as part of a balanced whole foods diet. And remember, swapping saturated fats for unsaturated fats from seed oils is generally seen as a good move for heart health. So, instead of getting fixated on fearing one ingredient, it's much more helpful to focus on the quality of your whole diet. Eat more whole foods, try to cook at home more, read those labels, and be a little skeptical of health claims that sound way too dramatic or super simple. The real story in nutrition is usually somewhere in the middle, not at the extremes. So, what do you think? Has this shifted your view on seed oils at all? Let us know your thoughts and any questions that you've still got in the comments below. We do read them. If you found this whole breakdown helpful and want more content that tries to cut through the confusion and look at the science, please hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ding that notification bell so you don't miss what we're looking into next. Thanks for watching.